I was told it was the only way, but they never asked what I wanted. Why did my own family erase my voice? Stay with me. You're about to find out what really happened behind that closed door. They said I was too young. They called it a mistake. And then they took everything, quietly, efficiently, completely. For decades, I played along, smiled, cooked, survived. But the silence never left me. This is my story, and it's not what you think. Thank you for being here. Have you ever lived with a memory that no one else remembered? One that shaped you, but was never spoken aloud? Leave a comment below, even just one word. Where are you watching from, or what time is it right now? And if quiet, powerful stories speak to you, don't forget to subscribe for more. Have you ever thought about not having kids, Grandma? The question hung in the air, weightless and brutal. Lila's voice was casual, lazy even, as she scrolled on her phone, legs tucked under her on the couch like it was just another Tuesday. I didn't answer right away, not because I didn't hear, but because my ears heard it too loudly. My hands were inside the warm dishwater, and I stared at the bubbles like they could somehow soften the memory trying to rise in my throat. But it came anyway, sharp, cold, and uninvited. In 1965, I got pregnant, and nobody asked what I wanted. They told me. My mother, Ruth Ann Dempsey, was not a cruel woman, not in the obvious ways. She believed in clean homes, clear rules, and clean slates. I was 19, and I ruined everything. "You are not going to shame this family, Margaret," she said. Then she folded the napkin, pressed it flat, looked at me like I was a stain. "You will fix this." I didn't cry. Not yet. I nodded, like a good girl. And somewhere inside me, something very young and very alive began to curl up and die. Back in the present, I smiled at Lila. Soft. Too soft. And said, "Of course, sweetheart. I suppose everyone thinks about it at some point." She didn't look up. Didn't see my hand tremble in the dishwater. Didn't see how tightly my jaw clenched. Didn't hear the scream that nearly clawed its way out of me. You see, when I was 19, I went to a clinic, not a doctor's office, not a hospital, a basement with white walls and women who didn't ask your name, only your date of birth, and a signature. "You'll sleep through it," one nurse said. "It's for the best," another offered. But I remember everything. The metal table, the smell of bleach, the silence that wasn't really silence, just shame humming so loud it swallowed your thoughts. Afterward, Mother picked me up in silence. We drove home with the radio off. She made chicken and rice for dinner. No one mentioned the baby. No one even said the word. The next day, my fiancé, John, came to the porch. Mother told me not to answer the door. "Don't be dramatic," she hissed. "It's over. You did the right thing. You'll thank me later." But I didn't. I never thanked her. I never forgot, and I never forgave them. Not any of them. I spent decades burying that year under casseroles and Christmases, under PTA meetings and baby showers that weren't mine. I let the silence harden into routine, until Lila asked that question, until she tilted her head and said it like a passing thought. "Have you ever thought about not having kids?" And just like that, 1965 wasn't buried anymore. It was breathing. That night, after everyone went to sleep, I went down into the basement. It was cold, dusty. But the boxes were still there, and I knew exactly which one to open. There's a particular smell in basements, something between old paper and trapped memory. But this box didn't smell like either. It smelled like ammonia and panic. I pulled the lid off slowly, like lifting a headstone. Inside, a folded cardigan, my yearbook, a prayer card for someone I barely remembered, and then a slim, wrinkled envelope. No stamp, no name, just confidential medical records. My hand hesitated. For almost 60 years, I hadn't touched this, hadn't even let myself think about touching it. But Lila's voice echoed again. Have you ever thought about not having kids? That question did something. It turned my body into a radio tuned to grief. And suddenly, everything, every folder, every folded piece of paper mattered again. I opened it. Date, May 19, 1965. Patient, Dempsey, Margaret A. Procedure, dilation and curettage. Status, completed, no complications. No complications. I stared at that phrase for a long time. They thought that meant I went home, that my body recovered. They never asked what it did to my voice, to the way I learned to hold a spoon like a weapon, to the way I would later look at my daughter and never be sure if I should have even had her. And the memory came flooding back. Not as a flash, but as a full scene. The walls of the clinic were yellow-white, flickering light in the hallway, an elderly receptionist who didn't look up once. "You're here for the fix?" she asked. I didn't answer. Mother answered for me. "She's here to correct a mistake." I changed into a gown that felt made of tissue paper. The nurse was younger than I expected, maybe mid-20s. She avoided eye contact as she strapped the cuff around my arm. "Cold feet?" she asked quietly. I didn't know what to say, so I asked the only question I had left. "Will it hurt?" She didn't answer. It did. It hurt more than I can ever explain, and not in the sharp way, not in the way you scream. It was the kind of hurt that builds a room inside you and locks you inside without a key. Afterward, they gave me orange juice, said to take it easy. No one talked about the baby. No one used that word. Just tissue, discharge, follow-up. Mother drove me home. She hummed a church hymn while I bled into her passenger seat, not out of cruelty, out of triumph. She believed she had saved me, saved herself. I didn't leave my room for 3 days, didn't open the curtains, didn't call John. On the 4th day, she brought me toast and said, "It's time to be normal again." I nodded, and I never said a word. That was the first time I learned the difference between silence and obedience. They look the same to outsiders, but inside, one rots you from the bones out. Today I taped that medical form to my fridge, not as a monument, but as a warning. Because if Lila goes through what I did, because I kept my mouth shut, then the silence didn't just ruin me, it spread. John wore too much cologne, always a little too loud, always smiling too fast, but his hands, they were gentle. And when he held mine in the back row of church, I used to believe in forever. We met at a Labor Day picnic. He brought deviled eggs. I brought awkward jokes and sunburn. By Halloween, we were kissing behind the bleachers. By Christmas, we were naming babies we hadn't made yet. He loved me. He really did. That was the worst part. I kept the letter for 58 years, found it again in the same box where the medical form had been, pressed between an old apron and a newspaper clipping about Nixon. The envelope was torn, the ink faded, but the words, they never changed. "Dear Margaret, I came by again today. Your mom said you weren't home. I've come by 4 times now. If you're mad, just say it. If you changed your mind, okay, but please don't disappear. I want to talk about the baby. I still want to marry you. John." I read it 3 times before I let myself cry, because I never got that letter, because my mother never let it reach me, because I spent decades believing he had left me, when really she had decided I didn't deserve him. She burned the future I was too fragile to fight for. That Christmas, I faked a flu to avoid the family dinner. No one asked twice. And the next summer, John's family moved to Indiana. I heard he got married there, had kids, named his daughter Maggie. Funny, isn't it? I stared at the ceiling last night, thought about the softness in his voice, the way he used to tuck my hair behind my ear. He would have stayed. He would have fought. He would have held me. But all he had was silence. Silence crafted, arranged, and maintained by women who believed control was the same thing as protection. I kept the letter, taped it to the inside of my closet door where no one else can see it, because even now, I'm still afraid someone will take it away. You'll come with me to the appointment, right? Lila said it between sips of cold brew, like she was talking about dry cleaning or buying new tires. I froze. Her phone lit up with texts from friends. Names I didn't recognize, acronyms I didn't understand. I mean, I just want someone there. Someone who won't guilt me. My mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, and lied. Of course, honey. Because that's what we do, isn't it? We lie in soft tones with calm faces. We swallow screams and serve them as tea. My daughter taught her that, just like I was taught. When Mary, my daughter, got pregnant at 22, I offered her my bedroom, cooked her eggs every morning, rocked her to sleep when her husband took late shifts and never came home. But I never told her about 1965, and she never asked. I remember once, in 1999, she caught me crying after dinner. No reason, no trigger, just a wave. She touched my arm and said, "Mom, you always get like this during election season." And I nodded, because what else could I say? It's the anniversary of the day my mother erased me. I saw a woman with a newborn today and wanted to scream. I wake up every year in May with blood under my nails in my dreams. No, that wasn't the kind of mother I was allowed to be. So instead, I taught Mary how to fold napkins and hold pain like porcelain, quietly, carefully, as if the world might judge the way you bleed. And now, she's teaching it to Lila. Yesterday, I overheard them. They didn't know I was upstairs, folding towels by the hallway vent. Mary, she's too emotional for this. 1 minute she's all fire, the next she's crying at dog food commercials. Lila, so? That's why I need her. You just lecture me. Mary sighed. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying, keep it clean. No drama. No regret. No regret. 2 words that snapped something inside me. Snapped like bone under too much weight. I held my breath until they left. Then I sat on the stairs for a long time, and I realized the silence didn't die with Ruth Ann. It changed shape. Now it wore lipstick and carried a purse and said things like choices and autonomy. But underneath, it was the same cold hand gripping a girl's arm and saying, "Fix this, before people find out." So that night, I did something I hadn't done in decades. I opened a Word document, typed 3 words in big black letters. I was forced. And then I kept typing. I never asked about my sister. Not really. Joanne was 12 years older. By the time I was old enough to care, she was already gone. Married young, they said. Moved to California. Never calls back. And I believe them. Because little girls are taught that family is gospel. That silence is safety. But something about Lila's voice, about Mary's voice, about my own voice finally waking up, it made me want to ask the one question I had buried since I was 7. What really happened to Joanne? I went digging, not with a shovel, with a notebook, a laptop, a gut full of suspicion, old photos, letters, yearbooks, marriage records, nothing, no trace, except one postcard, dated April 1960. In bed again. Tell Mother not to worry. It's just the flu. J. It was mailed from Indianapolis. But Joanne never lived in Indiana. She hated the cold. So why lie? I called my cousin Bonnie. We hadn't spoken in years, but she answered like she'd been waiting. "Oh, Maggie, you finally called." I didn't say why. I didn't need to. She already knew. Bonnie's voice dropped to a whisper. "Joanne got pregnant, didn't she?" "Yes," I said, "in 60. "Then you need to know something." Turns out my mother shipped her off too, not to California, to a home for unwed girls in Kentucky, a church-run facility that promised redemption and erasure. They took her baby, never told her where it went, then put her on a train with $40 and a forged diploma. She never came back, Bonnie said. They said she was unstable, that she shamed us. But I remember the day she left. She wasn't crying. She was silent. That word again. Silence. Like a family recipe. passed down through generations, meant to keep women from asking why their pain always had to be polite. I sat with that truth for hours. Joanne was the first. I was the second. How many more? Was my mother the beginning? Or was she just another branch on the same poison tree? That night, I took down the framed family photo from 1972, the one where we're all smiling in Sunday clothes, and with a pair of scissors, quiet, deliberate, I cut my mother out of it. There's a room in my basement I haven't opened in decades, the one under the stairs, behind the broken vacuum cleaner and the Christmas boxes. The door sticks, the light buzzes, the air smells like old cardboard and buried guilt. But something told me to go there. Not curiosity, not grief, instinct. I dragged out the bin marked legal, old stuff. Mostly taxes, insurance paperwork, receipts from furniture we no longer own. But then, tucked behind a water-damaged photo album, a thick sealed envelope labeled in my mother's handwriting, "Do not open, discarded medical." Discarded. Like me. I stared at it. A part of me, the old part, the obedient part, wanted to throw it away, just like she wanted. But I opened it, hands shaking, heart too loud. Inside, a copy of the same medical report I'd already found, but this one had something else. A folded pink slip, a birth certificate application, dated May 20th, 1965. My name was listed as Mother, but the field for the child's name was left blank, and in the margin, faint pencil marks. Mother wishes to remain uninformed of infant's final status. My whole body went cold. No, that's not what happened. That's not what they told me. They said it was done. They said there were no complications. But here was a form suggesting a live birth. Something was written, then erased. I dropped the paper, backed away like it might burn me, like it might scream. And suddenly, everything about that day changed. The hush in the clinic, the nurses who avoided my eyes, the strange way my mother clutched my arm afterward, not in comfort but in warning. Did I give birth? Did they lie? Was my baby taken from me? Not aborted, but stolen. My head spun. I couldn't breathe, not because I was scared, because somewhere, deep in my marrow, I already knew. The phone call lasted 3 minutes. That's all it took to confirm what I hadn't dared to believe out loud. Bonnie called me back. Her voice was shaking. I asked my aunt, the one who used to volunteer at the clinic in '65. She remembers your mother, Maggie. She said Ruth didn't look sad. She said she walked out of that building like she just signed a lease. And she had a baby blanket under her arm. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor and didn't break. But I did. That night I didn't eat, didn't sleep. I opened every box, pulled down every folder, every diary, every photo. Nothing. Until, behind a drawer in the old hutch, I found it. A photo. Faded, curled at the corners. No date, no handwriting, just a nurse in a white dress, holding a baby, smiling stiffly, and standing next to her. My mother, staring dead into the camera, expressionless. My stomach turned. The baby had dark hair. So did John. So did I. I flipped the photo, in light pencil, so faint I almost missed it. Margaret's girl. May '65. Not Margaret's choice. Not Margaret's loss. Margaret's girl. I fell into a chair. Everything inside me collapsed. She kept her, at least for a while. She didn't tell me. She didn't let me hold her. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't even say the baby lived. And now I had to live with the fact that somewhere out there was a child, my child, who was taught I didn't want her, didn't love her, didn't exist. I whispered into the dark, "You gave her away." And for the first time in my life, I wasn't talking to my mother. I was talking to myself. Because I let it happen. Because I was too quiet, too scared, too obedient, but I'm not quiet anymore. And if she's still out there, she deserves to know the truth. I started watching her differently. Mary, my daughter, No, my child. I know how it sounds. Crazy. Delusional. A mother spiraling into grief fantasies, but grief is never tidy. And the more I stared at her hands, the way she clenched her jaw when she was thinking, the way she laughed with a little hiccup, just like John used to, the more the questions grew claws. If Ruth lied about the abortion, if that pink form was real, if the baby lived and was given away, what if she wasn't given far? What if Mother wanted to watch her, raise her without the inconvenience of me? I dug out Mary's birth certificate. It was dated March 10th, 1966. But I remember she was always small for her age, always a little late to hit the charts. And Ruth had picked her up from a friend in Ohio when Mary was 3 months old. She told everyone she'd adopted as a favor, that it was informal, that the mother didn't want the child. That mother was me. Suddenly, every birthday card I ever signed, "Love, Mom," felt like a forgery. Every cake, every present, every moment I'd looked into her eyes and felt a dissonant ache. It all made sense. She didn't come from nowhere. She came from me, and my mother never told her. Or me. I stared at Mary the next morning over breakfast. She was stirring her tea, talking about Lila's upcoming college deadlines, and all I could think was, did you know? Do you feel it too? Is that why you've always kept me at arm's length? But I didn't say it. Not yet. Instead, I just asked, do you know your blood type, sweetheart? She looked up, blinked. B negative, I think. Why? I nodded, smiled, but inside my brain screamed, John was B negative. So was I. So is she. The test took 3 days to arrive and 5 hours to open. It sat on my kitchen table like a ticking bomb, mocking me. Just open it, I whispered to myself. But I couldn't, because once you know, you can't unknow. And maybe the fantasy is softer than the facts, but the facts deserve to be heard. So I opened it. 2 matches, one expected, Lila, one impossible. Parent-child match. Mary, my daughter, my baby girl from 1965. The room blurred. I don't know if I screamed. I think I just stood there clutching the paper like it might bite me. It felt like grief, but also like birth. A second labor, with no doctor, no gloves, just truth, finally clawing its way out of me. For 58 years, I thought I'd lost her. For 41 of them, I'd raised her, held her, fed her, watched her graduate, watched her judge me, watched her choose coldness, efficiency, emotional distance, just like my mother. But I never blamed her, because she was raised by a lie. She called me an hour later. Lila said you looked pale. Everything okay? I said yes, because what else do you say? Actually, Mary, I just found out I gave birth to you when I thought I'd lost you in a forced abortion, but my mother stole you and gave you back without ever telling me. Cream or sugar? That night I sat in the dark, watched the moon crawl across the ceiling, and for the first time in decades, I imagined holding her again, newborn her, swaddled, warm, alive, and I realized I have mourned a ghost while raising the living. She never knew. I never knew. And Ruth died with that secret on her tongue. So now the question wasn't, did she lie? It was, what do I do with the truth? The voice memo was 7 minutes, 12 seconds. I wasn't supposed to hear it. Lila left her phone on the counter while she made popcorn. I thought it was off. Screen black, speakers silent. But it must have been recording. Maybe accidentally, maybe fatefully. I didn't mean to hit play, but I did. And once I started, I couldn't stop. Mary's voice. My daughter who was stolen from me. She's been weird lately. Like, staring at me, asking blood-type questions, snooping around the basement. She's always had these moods. Ever since I was a kid, I knew something was off. Maybe she resents me. Pause. Then Lila. Do you think she suspects something? Mary again. About the adoption? I don't know. Grandma always said she wasn't ready to be a mother. Honestly, sometimes I wonder if she even wanted me. That line. Wasn't ready to be a mother. A quote from Ruth, passed down like a blessing, like a curse. I stopped the recording. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the phone. It hit the tile, cracked the case, but I didn't notice, because in that moment I realized they all knew. Mary. Maybe not everything, but enough. She grew up on a lie, then climbed inside it like it was a legacy. The recording proved it. Her silence wasn't innocent. It was intentional. She'd repeated the script, recycled the shame, rewritten history in her own daughter's ears. And I had sat through it all, knitting sweaters while they erased me one memory at a time. No more. I backed up the recording. 3 copies. 1 to a flash drive, 1 to my cloud, 1 to a password-protected folder titled, In Her Own Words. If they want silence, they'll have to earn it. And if they want truth, I have the tapes. The envelope came by certified mail, cream-colored, heavy. No return address, just a firm black stamp. Ruth A. Dempsey, estate execution file. My hands went cold. I hadn't requested anything. Hadn't even known there was an estate. But there it was, sitting on my porch like a ghost in paper form. I opened it at the kitchen table, a thin folder, a typed inventory, and one stapled document half yellowed by time. Letter of consent, parental override for medical proxy. Filed May 15, 1965, signed, Ruth Ann Dempsey. My name, printed in bold, but not my signature, hers. She had signed for me, and in the reason for override box. Patient is under emotional distress, displays immaturity and inconsistency in decision-making, will comply under family direction. The words blurred. I blinked, read again. Will comply under family direction. They took my baby because a piece of paper said I was unfit, because my mother declared me broken, and the system agreed. There was more. A handwritten note from Ruth, attached, paper clipped, still neat, still cruel. She is naive, easily led. If we don't act now, this will destroy her future. I take full responsibility for the decision. She signed it with her full name, not Mom, not Mother, just Ruth A. Dempsey, like I was her client, not her daughter. I sat still for a long time, watching the light change through the kitchen blinds. No tears, no gasps, just quiet. And then I said, out loud, to the silence, I never consented. They asked me to say a few words at the memorial. White roses, soft music, paper programs with Ruth's name in cursive gold. A devoted mother, a woman of strength and conviction. I stood in the back for most of it, holding a napkin I didn't need, watching familiar strangers nod solemnly like she'd been a saint. Mary sat in the front row, Lila beside her, arms crossed. A minister spoke. Then silence. Then someone said, Margaret, would you like to share anything? Every instinct screamed no. The good daughter in me begged to sit down, swallow it, let her legacy stand clean, but I was done swallowing. I walked up, slowly, hands stiff, heart loud. I stood behind the microphone, looked out at the faces, the flowers, the stained glass window that watched me like an eye, and I said, she taught me silence. She taught me obedience. She taught me that a woman's future could be rewritten in someone else's handwriting, but she never taught me how to forgive a theft. The air shifted. Someone coughed. Someone else cleared their throat. I kept going. In 1965, I got pregnant. I didn't get a choice. My mother, Ruth, made that decision for me. She took my baby, lied to me, lied to others, and built a life over that grave. Mary's face turned to stone. Lila stared at her feet. I steadied my voice. That baby didn't die. That baby was raised in this family. She is here, today, and she never knew. Gasps, whispers, one sharp inhale, probably Mary. I looked down, hands trembling, voice breaking. Then I looked up and said, "I won't be quiet anymore." I stepped away from the mic. No applause, no music, just stunned silence. But this time, the silence belonged to them, not me. I left before sunrise. No long goodbye, no final confrontation, just a packed suitcase, a half-charged phone, and the hum of my old Buick warming in the dark. Mary didn't call, Lila didn't text, and for once, I didn't wait. The drive out of town felt like an exhale I'd held for 60 years. Past the grocery store where Ruth used to inspect cantaloupes like sins. Past the church that made me feel small in a pretty dress. Past the clinic. Yes, I drove by it. It's a boutique office now, pale blue siding, a dentist inside. But I still saw the shadow of that door, still heard the echo of my own voice, not screaming, not sobbing, just gone. I drove through 3 counties before stopping. Small town, no one knew me. That was the point. I checked into a motel that smelled like lemon cleaner and second chances. Room 104, thin curtains, soft bed. I lay on top of the blanket, fully dressed, and stared at the ceiling for an hour. Then I cried. Not out of grief, out of space. Finally, there was room in me again. At noon, I opened my laptop, created a folder, my real life. Started writing. Chapter 1. My name is Margaret Ann Dempsey. I am a mother. I was silenced. I am not anymore. I made tea. Opened the window. For the first time in 5 decades, no one asked where I was. No one asked what I was doing. And that meant, for the first time, I belonged to myself. The email came 3 days after I published my post. I hadn't meant for it to go viral. I just uploaded it to a small blog site, titled the entry, "I was forced into silence. I'm breaking it now." No hashtags, no paid boost, just words I'd held in my body like poison. But truth spreads faster than shame. The email subject read, "You told my story before I could." Her name was Naomi, age 72, Texas. She'd been sent to a reform home at 16, gave birth to a boy she was told was stillborn. 39 years later, he found her through a DNA database. "I never got to hold him," she wrote, "but now he holds me." Then came another, and another. Hundreds of women, some young, most not. Some had lost children, others had lost their mothers, all had lost their voices. And somehow, my little blog, typed in a motel room with a chipped desk and burnt coffee, had become a bonfire. I renamed it Stillborn Truth, started recording voice entries. No makeup, no music, just me. Breath, words, silence that meant presence now, not absence. Lila sent me a DM, just a heart, no text. Then, a week later, "Can I talk to you about what happened?" To all of us? I said yes, not just to her, to all of them, because grief makes you small. But truth, spoken, raw, trembling, makes you part of something bigger, and I was ready to be part of it. The photo came on a Tuesday. Lila, hair in a messy bun, circles under her eyes, and in her arms, a baby, soft, pink, sleeping. She was smiling but not posing. It was real. Attached was a message. "Her name is Ruthie. I hope that's okay. I kept her. I wanted you to be the first to know." I stared at the screen for a long time, not crying, just full of something I didn't have a name for. Maybe grace, maybe air, maybe peace. The baby looked nothing like me, and everything like possibility. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I stepped outside, sat on the motel's plastic chair with my tea, watched the birds peck crumbs from the parking lot, and I thought about Ruth, not the baby, the other Ruth, my mother. I did not forgive her, and I won't pretend I did, but I did forgive the girl I used to be, the 19-year-old with shaking hands and no voice, the woman who obeyed, the mother who was tricked, the grandmother who waited too long. I forgave her, because she survived, because she loved, even when it was forbidden, because she finally spoke, because she kept going. I opened my laptop, typed the last paragraph of my story. They taught me silence. I chose voice. They gave me shame. I gave myself back my name. I clicked save, then closed the laptop, then exhaled. Not the end, just now I begin. If you're still here and this story spoke to you, consider subscribing to the channel so you won't miss the next one.